everybody. All right, so we are moving on to the next part of our packet, which is the last part of design, to look at when you're making your survey. So at this point, okay, we have a special guest. He really wanted to show you his Legos, guys. He's really proud of them. Yes, okay, thank you. All right, so you have figured out how you're gonna study. You have come up with your hypothesis. You've made your survey questions. Oh, you like my thing on my head? Okay. And now you have to figure out who you're going to ask. Now, we are in kind of a unique situation right now where the people who we are going to ask, it's pretty much going to be a convenient sample just because we don't have kind of better ways to do stuff right now. Okay. Helpful. Typically, getting your sample is going to be really important to make sure that you're not having bias. Now, for many of us, we're going to just be sharing this on social media because that's really all we can do right now. But I want us to understand there's better ways to find samples if we had access to it. So when we were doing the Dress for Success from yesterday, and not yesterday, but last time you guys were working on this about does dressing up on test days help? The difference between the population and the sample, and sometimes we get confused about this, is that the population is everybody that you would want to know, and then your sample is a small part of it. What is this? It's my ears that you're pulling down over my head. Can I put them back up? All right. So in that case, the population would be every student at Sprayberry, because that's, or even every student if you're trying to make a big survey and a big analysis that dressing up for anybody helps. Now, we can't interview everybody at Sprayberry. And we talked about that in class about how hard it is to actually do a sample of everyone. It would be the best data because you would have proof of every single person, but we can't do that. So the reason why we can't do that is, so what factors, and sorry, normally I try and type when I do here, but as you can see, I've got some hands that can't really type right now. But so you'll have to listen and write. So what factors do you need to consider when you select your sample? Well, the fact that, let's go to before this happened. Students are absent. People are going to say joke answers. People are down in ISS, so I can't ask them. Some people might not remember the last time they took a test. And then, field trips, just all these different things about, or people on minimum day, of trying to actually get to every single person is almost impossible. Okay. But if you can get to every person, oh, thank you. Okay. If you can get to every person, then we call that a census. And serendipitously enough, so serendipity means like it happened like it was supposed to, is that the U.S. Census, the 2020 census, just came in the mail, okay? So you probably got one of these, or someone in your household did. And this is the first time that the census is actually going to be able to be done online. So I'm going to kind of show you what the U.S. Census looks like, where those of you in Econ Gov, depending where you've taken it, know that we do it every 10 years, okay? There's a lot of issues that go around with it, especially now that we're switching over to online thing. But the point of the census is it helps us determine how many people are in certain areas. So it'll help determine if we need to change district lines for schooling, like are there too many kids here? We need to build another school. Do we need more resources here? And then also, are there more people in this area as far as are we going to need more representatives in the government and things like that? So the idea of the census is to just do a count of every person living in America. Obviously, there's a lot of issues that come along with that. How do we account for people in jail or in college or move a lot or have two households or are homeless or people who don't answer or all of these different things, okay? So I am going to walk through where we are. So I've already logged in to the census form, okay? There's a little code here, which you get this sheet of paper. There's a code that I'm covering up, and then you type that in, and it's for your whole household. So it's not each individual person, it's per household. So it asks that I verified my address, which you can't see. But so it goes through household questions. So including yourself, how many people? Oh no, you can see my address. Maybe we won't do this live. But I'll come back to do that. Not that you know, couldn't find that anyway. But when you're going through, it might be a good online activity for you and your parents to walk through. And it just asks for how many people are living at the house. So it doesn't necessarily ask for a lot of information after that. But there can be issues going with that later. So we can actually have in one of our discussions a discussion of the US Census, because there's a lot of kind of social justice questions that, you know, I love to discuss, which is better with more of us talking rather than me just talking at you about it. Okay, so I'm gonna put that on hold. We'll do a live discussion on the nature of the US Census here in a minute. When we do a live session later. So let's talk about sampling. Now I've got hands back. I can actually talk about the different kind of sampling. So vocabulary worksheet, we talked about this when we did the vocab in class. So let's assume our population we want to study is Sprayberry High School, which for most of us it is. So let's choose a way to do a sample from the following. We've already determined that actually doing a census of the school is near impossible. We do a census of the school whenever we do those stupid 100 question long health surveys where it's like, I, you know, do drugs all the time, strongly agree. And remember, there's like 100 questions of those. That's a census. Every single student in the school has to do that. But just because it's a census, that's not great data because a lot of you just lie and don't take it seriously. So it might be better to do a sampling anyway. Okay, so I'm gonna walk through these 5 sampling methods and then you on page 19, and then you guys are gonna be responsible for page 20. Okay, so simple random sampling is when every person gets a number or their name in the hat, and they are literally randomly chosen like a random number generator. So every person is given a number, and numbers are randomly chosen through a random number generator. The key here is that a lot of times we use the word random and we're not actually doing random. Like we say, oh, I'm randomly gonna pick people. But you still have your own personal bias. Like when you're walking up to people in the lunchroom, you're not randomly picking people. You're picking people that you're willing to go talk to. And so we might not acknowledge our own bias when we're doing random, but a computer has no knowledge of that. Everybody has a number and it randomly goes. Stratified random sampling is the same thing as random sampling, but you break them into groups first. So break into groups, then do a random sample of each group. This is important when you were talking about, like, you could break it up by grade level, you could break it up by gender. Those are kind of the 2 common ones to do. Like, I need freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, and I'm gonna get 20 from each group, okay? Here, I forgot to mention, what's the best way to assign everybody a student number and randomly choose? We all have student numbers. So every student already has a student number. So you could just use that because everyone already has that. Systematic sampling is a way to do kind of a random sampling, but you use a rule. So you could interview why did that just go bold all of a sudden? Neat. Every 3rd person that walks through the door in the morning. That walks through the door by attendance in the morning. Okay. But remember is that this means that you have to actually do that rule. So you can't be like, oh, that 3rd person is my ex and I hate talking to them, so I'm not going to interview them. No, this is your rule. It's to help take your internal bias out of who you're asking, okay? Cluster sampling is great when you can do it. It's a mini population. So the idea is you find a place of Sprayberry where there are every different group. So every grade level, every gender, every ethnicity, athletes, non-athletes, art kids, not art kids, ROTC and not, all the different groups. The best way to do that is a lunch. You know, like you could go to D-Lunch. In D-Lunch, you've got, you know, AP Honors Regular. You've got every single different type of group, and they're all there. The key is that you actually have to interview everyone there, is that you have to get the entire cluster. Okay. Because if you say, oh, I'm going to de-lunch, and you still want to interview one table, you guys know that like one table at lunch is not representative of the whole school. Okay. Now, convenience sampling is typically the one that we don't like to do, but you can make convenience sample not biased. An example, it's whoever is easily reachable. So in this case, you know, we're all having to send out links. And this is what most of us have to do right now because we just can't go to de-lunch. There isn't a thing of de-lunch or being able to stand at the doors to interview people. Now, you have to just be careful because if you're trying to get lots of other groups, some of you are already finding challenges, and we've talked about this, and you send out your social media and it's like, well, all I know are seniors. So all I'm getting back are seniors. Now, if your population is about seniors or like, you know, 17, 18-year-olds, then that's fine. If your sample has to include some freshmen, you need to get a little bit of creative and see like maybe you've got people that have siblings that are younger to get that message out. Convenient sampling in its name is what's convenient. So if you are not conscious about it and just sent it out and you got the first, you know, 50, but they're all your friends that are all the same age and all the same demographic, okay, that's not a good sample. It's not everybody. So you just need to be conscious in your convenient sample that you have other people. If you need to throw out some data to make them equal, you might have to do that. Okay. All right. So that is this page 19. Okay. You are going to be responsible for page 20 right here. And then that is going to take us up through design. And then the rest of this week, you guys are just focusing on getting your data collected. So then we can get to the next part, which is going to be about analyzing. Okay. Oops. The screen went away. All right. And hope you're all doing good. Make sure that you're reaching out to me if you have any questions about your surveys or if you're having any issues with collecting data. And don't forget to like and subscribe.